Good afternoon, my 7th grade U.S. history students. In the spirit of the holiday, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving today. We're going to talk about the relationship between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. So, what I would like for you guys to do is I would like you to take out this article that I handed to you yesterday. And I would like for you to open up to the Relations with Native Americans section. Go ahead and open to that, and then I'm just going to read through it out loud. While I read aloud, I'm going to go ahead and stop and tell you where I would like for you to stop and highlight. There's certain parts that I think that would benefit you guys best to highlight, and this is also just to help you pick out key factors of sections of reading so that you are not highlighting the whole thing and getting all of the information and being overloaded with it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So everybody get a pen, a pencil, a highlighter, any kind of writing utensil you can mark up your text with. Alright, relations with Native Americans. The native inhabitants of the region around Plymouth Colony were the various tribes of the Wampanoag people. So right there, just go ahead and underline Wampanoag. Just make sure you understand that's the tribe that was there first, or so they say, who had lived there for some 10,000 years before the Europeans arrived. Soon after the Pilgrims built their settlement, they came into contact with Squantum, or Squanto. Right there. Make sure you mark down Squanto's name. It's going to be important. An English-speaking Native American, Squanto was a member of the Pawtuxet tribe who had been seized by explorer John Smith's men in 1614-15. He was meant for slavery, but he somehow managed to escape to England and return to his native land to find most of his tribe had died of plague. In addition to interpreting and mediating between the colonial leaders and Native American chiefs, including Massasoit, chief of the Pokanoket, Squanto taught the Pilgrims how to plant corn, which became an important crop, as well as where to fish and hunt beaver. Okay, so right there, I want you to underline what Squanto taught the Pilgrims to do. Put a little star next to it, and just kind of remember that tuck it away. So, in the fall of 1621, the Pilgrims famously shared a harvest feast. Harvest feast, I want you to put some brackets around or just mark it up with the Pokanokets. The meal is now considered the basis for the Thanksgiving holiday. After attempts to increase his own power by turning the Pilgrims against the Massasoit, Squanto died in 1622 while serving as Bradford's guide on an expedition around Cape Cod. Other tribes, such as the Massachusetts and Narragansetts, were not so well disposed towards European settlers, and Massasoit's alliance with the Pilgrims disrupted relations among Native American peoples in the region. Over the next decades, relations between settlers and Native Americans deteriorated as the former group occupied more and more land. By the time William Bradford died in 1657, he had already expressed anxiety that New England would soon be torn apart by violence. In 1675, Bradford's predictions came true in the form of King Philip's War. That conflict left some of the 5,000 inhabitants of New England dead, and three-quarters of those were Native Americans. In terms of percentage of population killed, King Philip's War was more than twice as costly as the American Civil War and 7 times more so than the American Revolution. So I just, highlighted that last sentence. It's kind of important to know, and it gives you a good comparison of how badly King Philip's War impacted the people of the Americas at this time. So what I would like for you guys to do now is to take out this History Memory Bubbles graphic organizer that I handed to you at the beginning of class while you were walking in. And this is going to be the new graphic organizer that I'm going to teach you guys how to use so that you have a new way of taking notes. This graphic organizer is built to help you think like a historian. So this is something that I would love for you guys to be implementing more throughout our history class and then maybe your history classes to come. So what we're going to do is I'm going to model the strategy for you, and then you guys are going to work together and you're going to do one blank one by yourself, okay? So to get started, we're going to go ahead and pick a fact or a key idea out of the reading that we just did. So for today, we're going to pick a person. Now, realize these are your versions of notes, so you can adjust these bubbles however you would like. So instead of a fact, I'm picking a person, and I'm going to pick Squanto for today. Squanto. Squanto was the Native American, and what did Squanto do? So in the fact bubble in the middle, you're going to put Squanto. And then you're going to, in the who or what bubble, you're going to go ahead and write taught the Pilgrims how to grow crops. Alright, so once you have that, we're going to go over to problems. So right after we read about Squanto and how he taught the Native Americans to grow crops, we are going to move on to the next sentence. And the next sentence says, after attempts to increase his own power by turning the Pilgrims against Massasoit, Squanto died in 1622 while serving as Bradford's guide on an expedition around Cape Cod. So he was attempting to increase his own power by turning people against each other. Obviously, that's not something that's good. That's a problem that should probably be solved. So we're going to go ahead in problems. We're just going to write Squanto turned or tried to turn Pilgrims and Native Americans against each other. All right. So we're going to keep going in that circle. And we're going to go ahead and go down to the changes section. So in the changes bubble, we're going to, were there any big changes that we saw? I would say, going back to the beginning of the paragraph, a big change that Squanto saw in his people was the effect of the plague on them. So you could say that Squanto kind of saw a big impact on the population of his people due to the plague. So changes on people due to plague. So make sure you guys are just getting this down. I do want you to have a good, solid example so that you can refer back to it when doing your own with your partner. Okay, and so for solutions, we didn't really see a solution because Squanto ended up passing away. If anything, we saw that nothing good really came of his aggressions, and other Native Americans ended up getting war in King Philip's War. So in solutions, instead of solutions, go ahead and cross that out, and we're just going to write impact. And then in impact, we're going to write King Philip's War. And then we're going to write, and then we're going to write that it was twice as costly as the American Civil War. Just so you guys have an idea. Alright. So once you guys have that, I want you guys to go ahead and get with your partner. And then I will hand out your blanks, and you guys are going to go ahead and work together on one using the next chunk of reading. So you're going to go ahead and read the chunk that begins with The Pilgrim Legacy in New England. So you're going to read that, and that'll be the end of our reading, and you guys are going to do the graphic organizer based on that. If you can't find anything that you want to use in that last chunk, you can go ahead and look back in the beginning of the reading that we started yesterday in class. So you can use anything from this reading except for the section that I just went over with you. So you guys can go ahead and get started with that. Okay, so now the kids would do partner work together, and I would check in with them just to make sure they're doing it, and then we would all come together and share aloud some of the ideas that we had. And I would end up collecting this at the end of the period just so I have an idea of how well they understood the strategy that I presented to them. I would do my best, obviously, to discuss with them, with the groups, and then also ideally during this lesson plan, the modeling would have been, and the think aloud would have been done on a projector of some sort, so either a smartboard, an Elmo, whatever's available to me in my room. just so they could see me actually writing it down. And I would also, if I had actual students and not American Girl dolls, I would have had them engage with me more while I was reading instead of just me reading everything. I would have just stopped them and told them where to mark things down. So obviously if I had live students, there would be a little more student engagement, but I adapted to what I had. So yeah, that's my lesson, and happy Thanksgiving.